Hello, hello! I am Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in Running to Write, where I give questionable writing advice through running metaphors. Today is all about the self-edits. You know, the steps you should be taking before reaching out to beta readers or professional editors. This way you're not wasting their time or your money. Let me tell you a story about young me who just found this great new novel about a teenager who lived in New York and was attacked by armed thugs. He ends up being saved by somebody who transforms into a whale, I think, where he goes off to meet a warrior princess with precognition and a blue boy from a planet where everyone lives in virtual reality. The three go off to learn magic and travel across various realms. That's right, I'm going back to the Diadem Series, the story of Score, Helene, and Pixel. The same series that taught me that 111 is greater than 1 plus 1 plus 1, meaning that 3 people working together is always going to be better than 3 people individually. Note that I've only read these books once since grade school, when I was feeling nostalgic about a decade ago. And yes, I still remember far too much about them. In fact, that point kind of leads me to today's topic. Check your shit. Across the Diadem series, the spell to cast a fireball changed without explanation. And the same thing happened with the gemstones used to augment magic abilities. I realized that writing and editing a novel are works of art and tremendous amount of effort is required, but a lack of fact-checking and consistency can degrade an otherwise fantastic novel. When a handful of my elementary school friends separately read these novels, we laughed together about the mistakes and made a competition to see who could find the most. There are countless reasons for professional editors to miss such tiny details, from tight deadlines to the sheer amount of information within an ongoing series to plot requirements. However, the inconsistencies extracted me from sinking into those written worlds. A little more polish can make or break a novel. These are 7 ways to review your own works and avoid similar mistakes. Number 1, read it out loud. I've used the free text-to-audio tool called Balaboka, which converts my manuscripts into MP3 format. And there are plenty of other tools out there to do the exact same thing. This is an easy way to listen to my stories while I'm in the car or on a walk, and has helped me catch hundreds, if not thousands of errors. Granted, the voice is robotic, and there's no inflection, so the emotional pull is lacking. On the other hand, this makes the listening experience unbiased and better highlights issues. Number 2, read what's written. Don't skim when reviewing, read every word. My brain often jumps to what I think is written on the page, filling in gaps where words were missing or my intentions were unclear. Number 3, change the scenery. I mean this in 2 ways. First, if you always read your manuscript from a laptop, then convert it and put it on your favorite e-reader. Also, physically change your location. If you usually sit in a workroom to read, then take your book outside. These subtle changes are surprisingly efficient to force yourself to read in a different manner and catch all new mistakes. Number 4, know the rules. You don't need a master's degree in English or the language you're writing in, but some basic understanding is required. I frequently Google spelling, grammar rules, and general usage to ensure that I write correctly to the best of my abilities. Sometimes the guidance can be contradictory or country specific, such as the nuances between American English and UK English. Use your best judgment and be self-consistent. Toward versus towards with an S is a common region-specific rule which I struggle to use correctly, and I do rewrite my sentences to not include words which feel off. Though not an ideal solution, this works for me. Resolving these issues is a major task editors perform, but you should make the initial first pass. You can't expect an editor to rewrite the entire manuscript due to bad grammar, inconsistent tenses, or jumping points of view. Number 5, assume nothing. Remove any assumptions you have. You know where your story is going and all the backstory details about each character, some of which might have changed or been deleted from the text in the last revision. Assume your readers don't have an encyclopedia knowledge of the story. Also, assume they don't have the same experiences as you do. Take something as simple as an apple. My first mental image was of a large yellow golden delicious with a sweet flavor profile. Yet there are plenty out there with exceptionally sour tastes. The apples I'm familiar with generally range from red to green, with a good amount of variance among their size. Throwing a Granny Smith apple at somebody's head is going to hurt a lot more than a tiny Macintosh. Then again, do these minor details impact the story, or can the general term apple be used instead? Each writer needs to decide what works for their stories, and that's best done when removing your assumptions. Number 6, use a tool. In most cases, basic spell check is lost within my manuscripts. Between names, made-up words, and relaxed rules for spoken phrases, my chapters have a lot of underlined red text. As time-consuming as it is, I still rely on these default tools to find issues I missed. Grammarly is another great tool to identify sentences which could be improved. Then there are the paid products. I know of one called Pro Writing Aid, which is a subscription service for manuscript reviews if you're looking for spelling and grammar checks. It goes way beyond that though to analyze the writer's style and help them improve. I plan to use Pro Writing Aid in the upcoming months, so be sure to check out my thoughts on it in a future video. That being said, everything I've heard has been overwhelmingly positive. These tools are there to get manuscripts polished before sending to beta readers or professional editors. Those professional edits take a lot of time and cost a decent amount of money. As multiple iterations will be required to publish a manuscript, you want to make sure you aren't throwing your money out the window. And finally, jumping from a tool to use before another person reads our works to number 7, do a beta read swap. This is a bit of a cheat. By having my own works reviewed, I learned what other people look for and what catches their attention. Learning how others approach reading my stories and the details they look for has opened my eyes to all new ways of considering my written words. I have rewritten sentences because while I understood the visuals, I could easily see how my metaphor-laden imagery comes off as confusing to anyone else. I can reflect on issues I observe in other people's works to improve my methods of self-review. I analyze stories I read differently depending on the genre, whether I'm reading for fun or performing a beta read. The skills I learned merge and carry over between my different types of reading so that I can incorporate them and view my manuscripts in a new light. Those are my 7 steps to reviewing your works. The first 6 should be done prior to finding beta readers, and I highly recommend performing all 7 before each iteration is sent to editors. I am Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in another episode of Writing to Write. Let me know in the comments below what mistakes you've read which should have been caught and fixed. The podcasters for the Dead Robot Society, Terry Mixon and Paulie Cooley, have joked about how they've accidentally killed the same character more than once, or renamed a planet across the series. These mistakes, luckily, were fun Easter eggs for attentive readers. Similar mistakes in other novels make them feel unfinished or half-baked. At worst, they ruin the story. If you enjoyed this episode, then please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Join the Writing to Write community on Facebook, Twitter, and all social media to share your thoughts. See you next time. Until then, find those inconsistencies and fix them.